Again, my signals remain bearish. If this is to end, we've got to see them turn back to bearish. The risk is they remain, or we got to see them turn back to bullish if it's to end. If they remain bearish, the risk is we still try to go and get a deeper sell-off to test this low, or even take it out and form a divergence on some indicators. We don't have to, but it could be. Go down to the 200-week moving averages. I've talked about this at great length in detail. Momentum tried to flip here. It failed, at least so far. Got to be able to clear resistance areas, flip everything back to green if this is going to turn around, get the oscillator in positive territory. Signals here have been bearish right after we peaked there on February 19th. They've been bearish with the bars ever since. We've tried to see momentum here flip. It failed. And again, the trend represented by this line right here, this is momentum. Again, still remains bearish. You got to flip everything, get back above these levels to turn it around. Same thing here. Bars turned red. Red ever since. Got to break the downward trend line to turn this around. NASDAQ turned off of that trend line. S&P fell short of it. Again, eventually we're going to come back and fill the gap up here and eventually move back above those 20-period moving averages, 200 in the 60-minute time frames, NASDAQ and S&P. But do we get a bigger test here or try to take this level out? What I'm watching right now, S&P reaffirmed the bearish signal right here and right here. And now we pulled back and we're at the 50 period on the 60-minute chart. If we get a bigger pullback, again, we got the breaking of the cloud right here. And again, we could just be pulling back, getting an ABC move for a higher low if we get this bigger pullback, or if we've pull back enough to where we bounce off the trend line of support, which you'll see on the 60-minute charts. S&P got some bullish bottoming signals, but can it remain that way? Can we now establish a higher low here or at a little bit lower levels? We'll be watching. Got to clear this area if we're going to turn it around, and that's where we've stalled out at. But you have some bullish things happening. Can it remain that way? We now establish a higher low. Another higher low, I should say. We've already had one here off of that initial low that was made right there. Now, just quickly on the Russell, we had a 13 count at the bottom. We had 9 counts setting up on the Russell. It got canceled out. The 13 count ended up playing out. We had big reversal day, and it canceled out the 9 counts by moving above the bars from 4 bars ago. So it got canceled out on the NASDAQ. It got canceled out on the Dow. The Russell still formed the 13. The S&P could possibly get the 13. And this is a daily chart of the S&P. We could possibly get a 13 here if we close below the bar from 2 bars ago tomorrow if we go down further. Still establishing a higher low. 9 count here, mark the December peak. We turned down. We ended up going back up in January and then February, and we ended up forming that larger divergence on the RSI in the daily time frame with this trend line right here with these peaks. No count of importance there completed. Came shy of it, going to a 7 peak right here, going to a 5 peak right here, but you did get it over here. The counts complete. Sometimes they don't. We have a 13 count in play. If we do go lower to establish a higher low or to test this low over here, you do have a possible 13 count that could form as early as tomorrow. Selloff end up selling off further, getting a higher low again. It could establish a higher low. Earnings, positive tariff news, possibly China coming to the negotiating table the weekend or early next week. You don't have to complete the 13 count here. Count can pause, and there are interruptions that began over here after the 9 count. We've had the 13 count in the below the bar here. The 9 counts are above it. It's a possibility. Again, we're below the bar from 2 bars ago, so the count now resumes. We got to bar 11 right here, and then it paused with the rally, and now it's resuming again. So you do, if we do get a bigger pullback, you might complete a 13 count down buy signal either tomorrow, short trading week this week, or maybe at some point next week if it doesn't complete tomorrow. If we are below the bar from 2 bars ago. Here we are with the 12 bar. I'll be watching to see what happens there. And do we get a bigger pullback for a higher low? Does the trend line low hold, which I'm showing you on the 60-minute charts in this video? We make a move now to try to take out this low and form divergences on the OSM oscillator, the MACD, and the RSI, which I've talked about in my last update in great length and detail. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel. Take a moment to do that. I would really appreciate it. I thank you for your consideration for that. Quickly, the momentum line's still bullish here. Don't have a bullish reversal of conditions yet. The momentum line is bullish. Last time we had it, and then it failed. If it can remain bullish, you got to be able to clear the 20-period moving average not seen here, clear the downward trend line, which I'll show you in the video. Got to get momentum into positive territory. See China come to the negotiating table, you're going to get a massive rally. And if we get a bigger pullback, so we'll be watching. We got some bullish bottoming signals here. Now the last ones we've got, that only marked a counter trend. So again, can the momentum line remain bullish? Can we get momentum here in positive territory here on the NASDAQ daily chart? Same thing with the S&P. Again, we've had some bullish signals. This is what Bitcoin did. It formed the bullish signals, and you saw the momentum turn. The momentum line's turning bullish, and then a bigger rally. Now we're testing the trend line of resistance on Bitcoin, and again, clear it. The S&P is likely going to follow Bitcoin and the NASDAQ as well. Momentum line's bullish. Can it remain that way? And we even have green bars. So we had a sell-off today and that gap lower and a sharp decline today. Again, you've got the cloud turning bullish. Can it remain bullish? Are we just pulling back for a higher low? The scenarios that I'm talking about with the three-leg push down being possibly done, which you'll see in this video. Momentum can remain bullish, then you got a shot at a higher low here, maybe a little bit lower. If we go lower, if it starts flipping bearish, risk is we get a deeper sell-off or try to take out the lows over here. S&P daily. Now we had a couple of things create a sell-off today. Warning from big tech. We had Powell concerned about inflation with the tariffs. The bears are dancing in the aisle. Here comes the next collapse. It's still possible we go lower. That's possible if we move to the 200-week moving average. But in the past, we haven't always done that. I've talked about that in great length and detail. Let's just on a few things here. We were down 700 points on the Dow, 1.73% lower. The S&P was down 2.24%, down 2.25%, down 121 points. NASDAQ down 3%. And again, we were at lower levels at the lows of the session. I think NASDAQ had dropped near about 4% lower there, and we recovered off the lows. I'll tell you what's going on with the charts. Bounce off a trend line in the 60-minute time frame. Russell down 1%. The VIX was up 8.37% to close at 32.64. It was a tech-driven sell-off. Nvidia took a $5.5 billion quarterly charge that sent Nvidia lower, which led the NASDAQ lower. You got Nvidia and AMD and others warning of higher cost from China export controls. Nvidia ended down 6.87%. It rebounded off the lows. It got a doji going back to the 400-period moving average. I talked about this yesterday. We've seen Nvidia stall right here, and again, we have a possible bull flag that could end up setting up a right shoulder. Again, after from the high, after a 43.5% sell-off, Nvidia in a few days has rallied back up 33.6% off of the low. Yesterday, we could see a pullback. We could see it with the NASDAQ. NASDAQ follows Nvidia. Again, I believe that Nvidia's topped again. I think you have two possibilities. Eventually, I think we're going to break the downward trend line, move back up towards the moving averages, and probably end up forming a right shoulder. I think this is going to take several months to just go choppy. See it with this entire pattern. We either have, I think, a head and shoulders pattern where you've got a right shoulder and a neckline that's slanted, a right shoulder that could develop in the coming months ahead here, or if we go to a new high, which again, I think Nvidia is likely peaked, but it still could go to a new high, and you've got a broadening formation where we've gone slightly lower and you've got a 5-point reversal. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go 5, and we end up going up into this trend line and going to one more push higher, and you have a broadening formation for a top. One or the other. A doji, again, there still could be a bigger pullback, but I'm looking at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is bouncing off a trend line, but again, Nvidia's risen 33.6% off of the lows, and then now we're getting this pullback. Nothing goes straight up, nothing goes straight down. Look at the chart. You get a lot of choppiness. Times where you get parabolic moves higher, but then you have a lot of choppiness with Nvidia as well. Exaggerated price swings up and down. So again, could still be a bigger test of the lows. Eventually, I think you're going to end up breaking the downward trend line and moving back towards the 200 for a test. Had a very, very big rally off of the lows. Nvidia is going to need time to digest those gains and then eventually attempt to break out. Doji can be bottoming signal or a continuation where we could still go lower. It's likely pulling back to set up a higher low, and maybe that's done with the doji. Maybe, again, doji's a continuation and we get a bigger pullback with Nvidia. There are two words moving the market right now. One of them is the word tariff, when Trump says tariff. The other word is inflation, and that's when Powell comes out and says inflation. Those are the two buzzwords that are moving the market. Powell expressed uncertainty about the tariffs, still concerned about inflation. That is not considering cutting rates. At least that's what he's telegraphing. He's concerned about inflation. When he should be concerned about the coming recession, he's telling us that, again, the economy is still in a good place and all the rest of it that he always says. Again, this is what the Fed did back in 2007. They were concerned about inflation when they should have been concerned about the recession. And that's why we're still going to get the emergency cuts out of the Fed. We're still going to get the jumbo rate cuts out of the Fed, rattling the markets a little bit as well, adding to the tech sell-off surrounding Nvidia. That's what moved the market today. Earlier in the month, we had China say they're going to fight to the end. Conventional wisdom right now is there's no possible way they're going to come to the negotiating table. Same thing that was said in 2018. Another thing that moved markets today was the U.S. slapped an additional surge of tariffs of 245% on China. The U.S. escalated its tariffs on the Chinese imports to 245% in what appears to be a response for China's retaliatory actions. Following the announcement, China expressed an openness to trade discussions if the president demonstrates respect. Trump slapped on the higher tariffs because he said China was disrespecting. Now China's saying Trump's not respecting them, indicating a willingness to negotiate. Yeah, if they don't, their economy is going to quickly collapse. So that also moved to the markets today. We recently just saw China restrict the rare earth minerals to the United States, again, in retaliation. We've seen retaliatory tariffs. Now they're doing other things. Trump's talking about delisting companies. Again, raising the tariffs back up. Conventional wisdom right now is that there's no possible way that China's going to come to the negotiating table. This is just going to keep going. And again, the whole economy is going to collapse. And again, China's economy is already fragile. We've had a good GDP number that just came out, but I know about a lot of their economic data. A lot of it has been proven to be false. Nevertheless, I digress. Again, they've retaliated different ways. Trump's hitting back. And again, conventional wisdom is there's no way that China's going to come to the negotiating table. You dare to say that that's a possibility. You're a Neanderthal, a buffoon. It's not going to happen. And again, it's just like the media told us, there's no way negotiations are going to happen. There's no way that we're, and now we're seeing 130 countries plus now coming to the negotiating table. You got Japan coming, sending a delegation to the White House this week here. We were told that wasn't going to happen. We were told there's, no, I have this trade war and it's going to be resolved. And again, you're going to get a rally of hope. And again, China is going to come to the negotiating table. They have to. I'm telling you, we're either going to see trade deals reached, likely announce a few of them in the not too distant future. Tariffs end up going away by little. See Trump walk things back. All negotiating tactics. We've already seen that over and over. We just saw it the very day of the launch of the reciprocal tariffs. The very day he paused them and brought the rate down across the board, 10% rate. Trump doing this with the 245% tariffs. I didn't get the date that begins. I don't know if it begins immediately or if there's a date. It wasn't in I read a couple stories on it. It wasn't in the stories. Research it further and find out. This is going to put pressure to come to the negotiating table, which we're being told is not going to happen. The herd is telling us there's no way. China's imports to the United States are 5 times the amount of the U.S.'s imports to China. They can't win a trade war with the United States. I think that, again, when China does cave, and I think it's going to be very, very soon, we're going to get a massive rally on that. See that this week or next week, certainly possible, because the herd has just lost all hope. The media is just gone wild. The stories are writing. They're acting like we're going into the next Great Depression, which we're going into a recession. That is going to happen, but the stock market's going to recover. Then we're going to top. Powell's not panicking right now. If you listen to him today, this sell-off right here, this crash move down is not the crash that's going to usher in the bear market. It's the preview of coming attractions. Those are the things that rattled the market today. I think you're going to see these tariffs go away, paused. I think China's tariffs and the U.S. tariffs are probably going to end up getting paused in the not too distant future. Again, we could see that this week. We could see it next week. Again, by Trump doing this is actually good for negotiations with other countries because, again, putting maximum pressure on China. These countries are going to be very motivated to make deals, fair deals, and not play around and play games like China's doing. Sending a message to China. Either you continue to play games, retaliate, go into the economic abyss. It's going to damage their economy severely if they don't wake up and come to the negotiating table. Or you come to the negotiating table and we cut a fair deal. China is going to come to the negotiating table. They're going to come kicking and screaming, but they're going to come. Last time the United States made a deal with China, they didn't honor it. They've said a bunch of things. They lied, and they broke the agreement. It was just a bunch of paper. They're going to have to do an agreement where they verify everything. If China says they're going to do something, okay, you do it, and then we verify it, and then we do this. And that's the way it's going to have to be, because the last time they made an agreement with China, China didn't honor the agreement at all. So again, they're going to have to negotiate an agreement where they can verify market down, the S&P and NASDAQ down, but the price of Bitcoin, it had a rally of over 2%, and it gave it back surrounding Powell. Now it's still up 1%. Again, I think that Bitcoin's suggesting something is getting ready to happen. If it breaks this downward trend line, gets back above the 200 period, and it ends up, if Bitcoin ends up getting above this line, you've got a double bottom pattern. It's bouncing off major support. Bitcoin loses the support area. That's extremely bearish. A bounce off of it, it's extremely bullish. Why am I talking about Bitcoin? Because again, Bitcoin is likely going to lead the market again. Last 2 death crosses, when they've happened, it's marked a bottom for Bitcoin. We just had this death cross surrounding this low at key support at 74,000. So again, if we can get a breakout in the next few days, back above the 200, back above this level, then again, the market could follow Bitcoin higher. We're getting the RSI back in the positive region. City also has a bullish divergence, and it's, again, just coming right up to the center line there. If it can get a breakout, you're going to see this bullish divergence play out. Bitcoin's going to have the MACD go into positive territory. So again, could this be suggesting a recovery? If we get a big surge higher, you're going to see the 10 cross back above the 20. The 10 is the red line. The 20 is the blue line. So again, getting back above our 50 period, we're just consolidating right here at the 50 period moving average. It may get a bigger pullback. This low is likely going to hold. And again, we've seen bottoming signals form on Bitcoin. Then momentum has turned back to bullish. We've got a couple of trend signals turning bullish. And if we get a breakout, you're likely going to see all the trend signals begin to turn back to bullish for Bitcoin. Bitcoin can break out. The market is likely going to follow it. Have a positive correlation, which in Bitcoin usually leads. I've talked about the 2 possibilities. Either the S&P has topped, you get a 5-leg push down, we rally back up, and we end up getting wave 1 and 2, and the top is in. I think that's less likely. In this sell-off, the Fed's not panicking yet. Yes, it was more than what we saw in 2000 and 2007, but this is a very different kind of bull market. We've had 4 times now. This is the 5th where we have dropped 20% or greater. Wild swings up and then back down and recovering. We've had death crosses before and we've recovered. You're going to see it happen here, but this is the bearish count I've talked about. Here's a bullish count. Again, if we have a 3-leg push lower, then the move is corrective. Still likely going to go make new highs. Again, we've seen an over 3% rally, 13% rally, pardon me, on the S&P 500. More than that on the NASDAQ. I think it was like 16% or something. Saw that massive rally on Nvidia. We're digesting those gains, and again, we're likely going to build upon that. We'll be watching to see if the low can hold. You're at major horizontal support at the S&P 500. If we go lower, directly below that, let me just bring it up here. Directly below that is the 200 period moving average, just under horizontal support. You got a good shot this low is going to hold, and we're just setting up a higher low right now. We've rallied up over 13% off of the lows, so we're probably digesting those gains. But again, the sentiment is very bearish. The hopelessness is present. No chance China's coming to the negotiating table when, again, it's likely about to happen. No chance we could rally back up. This is what they said about the rally that we've had, the 13% rally off of the lows. There was no possible way we were going to rally back up, but yet we've rallied up over 13%. Now we rally back up to this level right here. This is my bearish count that, again, be invalidated if we push above 5504.65, which is this low right here. This count again suggests 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we get 5. Problem though is that it's still possible because this low hasn't been validated, that even if we do that, it's part of C 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get 5. That would be C. So that's still a possibility. If we don't go to new lows, there are some very interesting possibilities. We did get a hollow red candlestick here on the S&P 500 at key horizontal support. Got to see signals begin to turn back to bullish if we're going to make our way back up to test the 250 as we've gotten the death cross. You've got a massive inverse head and shoulders. If we get a big rally, say in the next day or two or next week, short trading week this week, so, market's closed for Good Friday. So tomorrow or on into next week or something, or over the weekend, China comes to the negotiating table. You could see a massive rally back up to the 250 period moving average. You've got a possible inverse head and shoulders if this is a V-shaped recovery. So again, we're digesting the gains here a little bit by pulling back. If we get a higher low, that would be extremely bullish, and to resume the advance, clearing this level of resistance. The above that level would invalidate the bearish count. NASDAQ's already done it. Already invalidated the bearish count, so you probably have a 3-leg push lower. Still the possibility of divergences on the S&P 500. Don't have to move to new divergence, but we got to be able to clear this area, got to be able to clear this 5504 area if we're going to try to get a bigger rally. And that's getting us back above the 20 period, getting us back above horizontal resistance, and really invalidating the bearish count. MACD's gotten the bullish cross. That may be it. That may mark a bottom right there, but it also still may form a divergence. Could just get a confirmation of a higher low, but again, if the signal remains bullish, again, we'll be watching, can we clear the 20 period moving average? We're now getting earnings, and again, we're going to be watching for any news regarding negotiations for China and the U.S. I think is coming down the pike. People are so naive. You know, we were told there's no way that countries are going to come negotiate with these tariffs, that they were just going to happen and that's it, it's over. But yet you've got over 130 countries now negotiating with the U.S. Japan coming over to to Washington to negotiate. Be announcing deals in the not too distant future. You're going to see China come to the negotiating table. We're going to get a relief rally, a rally of hope. Market doesn't like uncertainty, and you're about to get more certainty. Everything we're being told on social media, everything we're being told by the media is not happening. I mean, there are negotiations taking place. The retaliatory tariffs, Europe and others, they were paused after Trump paused his reciprocal tariffs on the launch day. That's not going to happen, and yet it's happening. This is the bearish count. We'll see if it gets invalidated. We'll see if this low can hold with our hollow red candlestick and our bottoming tail. And again, at major horizontal support. If you do, you have a 3-leg push down. For the 3-leg push down, I do have a couple of different counts. Now here, I'm showing the count is already completed. And again, we're starting this wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these minor waves that we've completed, intermediate wave 4. And we're going to get this Let me just move this over here so you can see it. We're going to get these 5 minor waves completing intermediate wave 5, and we're going to go higher and exceed this level. And I think this is going to take a few months. We're likely going to see this go on into the summer or maybe on into the early fall, maybe as long as September. And we could be forming a massive head and shoulders pattern, very, very possible. On the Dow, you've got a possible broadening formation, a massive broadening formation. Same thing on Nvidia. So again, we'll see if we can get a rally here. I've got a couple of different ways to count this. And again, it's Elliott wave of speculation. I never trade it. I use it to try to validate or invalidate directional moves, term or long term. We now have the 3-leg push down. A couple of different ways to count that. Just because we get a 5-leg push down, I think the Russell's already gotten that, as I've been talking about, and I think that is suggesting we'll see the Russell rebound with an ABC, and S&P will move to new highs, getting a 5-leg push higher to complete the topping process, to get the final phase of the blow-off top. So again, going to happen. I just think that people don't recognize that right now. People get so bearish. The herd gets extremely bearish. The people that told us there was no way we were going to go down now tell us there's no way we're going to go up, and that's what always happens. The herd is telling us there's no way we're going to see China come to the negotiating table. Person after person call me name after name for daring to even think that. I mean, I'm stupid, and there's no way it's going to happen when you're about to see it happen. People get pretty brutal on social media. People telling us now that have told me directly that, again, China's not going to negotiate a deal until Trump leaves office or till the midterms. Other people are saying they don't have that long. If they do not come to the negotiating table, they're going to see their economy collapse. Economics 101. You can't wait 4 years. Damage will have already been done. That's what people are just oblivious to. For this 3-leg push down, I have a couple of different possibilities. Let me just show you that real fast. Again, from going from intermediate wave 3 to intermediate wave 4 and then intermediate wave 5 following. Here's first scenario, that we have a truncated fifth. We have an ABC in a zigzag move. We have a 5-leg push down, an A, a B, and we got a 5-leg push down, but we have a truncated fifth where we have 1, 2, this is 3, 4, and then we get 5, and it's a truncated fifth wave where it's not the low of the count, which is called a truncated fifth wave. Now we're starting wave 1, and we're getting an ABC for 2, and then we're going to get wave 3 and end up pushing above the 200 period. This is the truncated fifth scenario. This scenario says we have an ABC move, we've already bottomed, and we're now beginning our subwaves here, our first subwaves of minor wave 1 for intermediate wave 5. So that's the truncated fifth scenario. Now again, if we push above the dotted blue line here, it's going to invalidate the bearish count, pushing above that 5504 area as I've mentioned. And eventually, again, if we can get above the 200, the 50 will get back above the 200. So this is the truncated fifth. This count says we've bottomed. We've now begun wave 1 here, first subwave in minor wave 1, and we're now getting wave 2. Couple other possibilities, that we have a leading diagonal. A leading diagonal, this count says we bottomed over here at the bottom, and we're now getting this leading diagonal 1, 2, 3, and we're now getting 4, and there's overlap, and we're now going to get 5 and come up and push above that red line right there and move up to the 200 period, maybe try to go to fill the gap, whatever. This count says, hey, we have a leading diagonal, and we're going to end up getting a push up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have more work to be done because we're going to end up getting a wave 2. Now, this count would suggest we go up to the 200 period, but then get rejection, and then eventually the 50 period makes its way to get back above there. So the leading diagonal count, this count says we have the bottom end over here, and that the higher low is part of a leading diagonal. To kick off intermediate wave 5 with this leading diagonal, which you get overlaps in a leading diagonal in sections of 3s. The other scenario is that we have a larger leading diagonal, and you can see right here, again, we came down to this trend line in the 50 period moving average. We also bounced off of that trend line right there, and this count right here says, okay, we bottomed here, but you're getting possibly a leading diagonal. And again, if we take the count from the truncated fifth, then it's not. But this count would say a leading diagonal with sections of 3, and then we have 1, 2 forming here, and then we go up and get 3, 4, and 5. Now, again, if we count it as a truncated fifth, then again, go back to my other count here where you just have the 1 and we're getting 2 right now. So I think those are the most likely possibilities. The fourth is that if we do end up going to a new low, that we have 4C, 1, 2, 3, 4, didn't quite get invalidated, NASDAQ already did, and then we end up going down and we get 5. Also be a 5 for the bearish count. So keep that in mind. If we don't go lower, if our hammer holds right here and then we get a higher low, then again, got to clear that red line, get back above the 200 period moving average. If I bring up the cloud here on the S&P 500, NASDAQ and S&P are doing the exact same thing. They're pulling back to the 50, pulling back to the cloud of support, pulling back to the trend line. They're both doing the same thing. So here it is on the S&P, the cloud, the trend line, and the 50. In order to turn around, you got to get back above the 200. The 50's got to get back above the 200. But this looks identical to what we have on the NASDAQ. The same thing here, and we had again, a Class B diversion. You had almost 2 equal lows there at this low right here. You got a hollow red candlestick. You didn't get one in the daily time frame, but you did get one here in the 60-minute time frame. And again, we're right at this trend line. We're right at the cloud, and we're right at the 50-period moving average. We rose, I think it was 16% if I measured it previously, but S&P was up over 13%. I think NASDAQ rose over 16%. Now we're pulling back. We gapped lower. We now have another gap. We've got all these other gaps up here on the NASDAQ, one just above the 200 period, others at this high right here and above that. So again, we're likely going to make our way to go fill those gaps if we can establish this as a bottom. If we get a higher low here and we get another higher low, I mean, the bears are just out celebrating today. Again, I think you got a pretty good shot that we're probably going to still try to get above this 200 period moving average in an overall bottoming process. Again, I think you have the same thing over here with this diversions. I think you have an A, a B, and a C with NASDAQ. Same thing. Do we have a truncated fifth, or do we have this as a bottom, now starting a leading diagonal or something? Same exact scenarios I think that we have with the S&P 500. Can we see the MACD firm back up and confirm a higher low here? Even if we go lower and get a deeper Fibonacci retracement, still establish another higher low. So as what I'll be watching for is, before we close up this week, remember we got a short trading week. It's going to be the market's going to be closed on Good Friday, and we get back above the 200 period, before the week ends or on into next week. And if we do, then we can be well on our way to coming back and filling these gaps and on our way to recovery. Again, you still have the possibility of a massive inverse head and shoulders pattern that is, not even being considered as a possibility by anybody, but you have a possible massive inverse head and shoulders pattern. And if we have wave 1 up here, we come up here, maybe even overthrow this level, you can get a wave 2 on a pullback, and then go on and get your wave 3 and so forth. But again, if we blow right past this area, then again, maybe that pattern doesn't set up, but it is a possibility. Again, we invalidated the bearish count on the NASDAQ. We've already had overlap. So again, I think you've got a pretty good shot. Bottom could be in with a 3-leg push down, an ABC move. That 60-minute chart. This gives we still form divergences on the RSI and the MACD. The MACD turned bullish. It reached an extreme. There was no bullish diversions. We've come right back up to the 20 period in the trend line, just like Bitcoin did. And NASDAQ's doing exactly what Bitcoin did. We've come up to the trend line and we pulled back. Bitcoin does have bullish divergences. And break above the trend line, then NASDAQ will likely soon follow. Bitcoin rallies big time, market is likely going to follow. Again, here's that possible inverse head and shoulders. If we get a big rally and we get a V-shaped recovery, if we end up coming up here to the 50, the 200, then again, you may see rejection there and off of the cloud, and then come back up here. Possible inverse head and shoulders. No guarantee it sets up, but it is certainly a possibility. NASDAQ daily chart here. Again, quickly, NASDAQ has already invalidated the bearish count. If this is wave 1 and this was wave 2, we've already invalidated it. If this is part of this rally back up, as part of this move down right here, that this is 1, 2, and then we get 3, 4, well, we've already invalidated that as well. So again, this is a larger wave 3 with this being wave 4, it's already been invalidated, okay, with moving above that low right there.